No spin, no bias, no censorship. I'm Dan Wootton. This is Outspoken episode number 404 and breaking right now. Outrage as our tinpot dictator Slippery Starmer bans right-wing darling Eva Vlaardingerbroek from the UK just 3 days after she called the Prime Minister a despicable and evil man, and 3 months since her game-changing speech at Tommy Robinson's Unite the Kingdom rally.
You run the risk of getting thrown in jail for longer than the immigrant who has raped your daughter. That is the UK in 2025 under Keir Starmer. Nothing short of a tyrannical state.
No wonder he wants her gone. No wonder he's scared. We will hear from Eva Vlaardingerbroek momentarily. Also today, left-wing firebrand George Galloway refuses to return to Britain because his free speech cannot be protected as independent media sensation Nick Shirley humiliates Britain in the US.
I will not go back to the United Kingdom until they withdraw their threats against my wife and their implied threats against my work. If they think that I'm going to go back and allow my wife to fall into their hands, or I'm going to continue with my television work in a place where they can stop it by one means or another, then they are misunderestimating me.
The reason why the Labour Party, the Democrat Party in the UK, the reason why they're able to stay in power is because they'll tell these Muslims they can go ahead, do whatever they want.
Meanwhile, Slippery Starmer's U-turns now total 13, something he himself said would prove serial incompetence.
The winter fuel allowance, U-turn. Waspy women, U-turn. The two-child benefit cap, U-turn. Grooming gangs inquiry, U-turn. The family farms tax, U-turn. Digital ID, U-turn. Jury trials, U-turn. We hope so. We hope so.
It's also exactly 1 month today since the Muslim attack on Bondi Beach, which killed 15 in Australia. In a world-exclusive interview, Pauline Hanson slams the Islamist takeover of the United Kingdom, and the One Nation leader reveals how her burka stunt in the Australian Senate has seen her banned from debating free speech and guns crackdowns following the terror attack. You have been quite horrified to see the change to the United Kingdom, haven't you?
Most definitely. Actually, that's made my resolve more determined, because I don't want Australia to become like England. What has happened to your country? I'm devastated for the people, in Britain.
You're looking at the next Prime Minister of Australia. We're also joined today by Father Calvin Robinson, host of Fox and Father on YouTube, and former UKIP star Godfrey Bloom, an expert in geopolitical military strategy and much more besides. Also coming up on the show today, Sly News admits who they really are by poaching Channel 4 News' biased lefty presenter Cathy Newman, the woman who was humiliated by Jordan Peterson. And this is great news for once. YouTube finally kills the BBC, becoming the UK's biggest broadcaster officially as the MSM death speeds up. Then we're moving over to Substack for the uncancelled after show, where Prince Harry makes an audacious bid for a halftime return to the United Kingdom. We'll analyse his deluded pitch with royal YouTube sensation Pete Diner. Also, a new Greatest Britain Union jackass revealed at the end of the show. Here are your nominees for the worst Britain in the world today. You can vote right now in the live chat on YouTube. Lee Anderson, nominated by Kaz Quinn, for saying regarding re-digital ID, they've backed down to Reform UK, when in fact he didn't even sign Rupert Lowe's letter to Parliament. Lewis Goodall, nominated by Homehouse47, who says, no surprise the little soy boy and the even smaller Khan aren't keen on the UK having our own go at ICE for deportations. And Slippery Starmer himself, nominated by It's Only Me 44 for threatening to have X blocked due to Grok. Nothing to do with Grok, as other sites and Photoshop can do the same. It's all about his hatred of free speech and Elon Musk and blocking people criticising his communist dictatorship government. So a whole load on the way today. Do keep your feedback and your comments coming in throughout the show. I will read out the best at the end. But now, let's go. The world knows the deep trouble we in the disunited kingdom now find ourselves in. Today, the tinpot dictator Slippery Starmer, fresh off his bid to ban Elon Musk's X, has actually banned right-wing commentator, right-wing darling, the absolutely brilliant Eva Vlaardingerbroek, from entering the country. Now, you remember, she was one of the stars of Tommy Robinson's Unite the Kingdom rally just months ago, attacking Starmer and calling for remigration.
Truth. Well, in this country, you run the risk of getting thrown in jail for longer than the immigrant who has raped your daughter. That is the UK in 2025 under Keir Starmer. Nothing short of a tyrannical state. But, ladies and gentlemen, do not despair. Do not become demoralized, because that is exactly what they want you to do. Because when I look at you, when I look at this sea of flags, I know that it is far from over for us.
So we know that Starmer is scared, so scared that in the past few hours, Eva has revealed, holy shit, I've been banned from traveling to the UK. They revoked my ESTA. Your presence in the UK is not considered to be conducive to the public good. Now, do we really believe that? Given just 3 days ago, this is what Eva had posted about Starmer. Keir Starmer wants to crack down on X under the pretense of women's safety, whilst he's the one allowing the ongoing rape and killing of British girls by migrant rape gangs. Evil, despicable man. Now, that revelation from Eva prompted Katie Hopkins to write, "We will get you into this country, darling. The time for asking for permission is over. Half the Mujahideen rock up on the Kent coastline on a daily basis. You are a necessary antidote. Let me speak to the lads. We welcome you." And in the past few minutes, Eva Vlaardingerbroek has responded directly to Starmer on X, revealing that his move will stop her from speaking at the next Tommy Robinson Unite the Kingdom rally in May. Watch.
So I just got an email I didn't expect. I have officially been banned from traveling to the United Kingdom. I'm not allowed to enter the country because the UK government under Keir Starmer deems my presence in the UK, and I quote, not conducive to the public good. I don't know what that means. Since when is being conducive to the public good a requirement to enter a country? I mean, especially the United Kingdom, where, if I'm not mistaken, thousands of illegal immigrants enter through the channel every day. Every day. Nobody's asking them to be conducive to the public good. But I cannot come. And now this email came out of the blue, in the sense that I didn't apply for an ETA now. I went back in September to join the Tommy Robinson rally where I spoke, and I was planning, I should say, to do that again in May. Guess not. And now the timing is quite suspicious, isn't it? Because 3 days ago, I posted this about Keir Starmer, calling out his hypocrisy that he wants to ban X because of women's safety, whilst at the same time he's the one who's allowing these migrant gang rapes to happen. Obviously, he's just doing that because he wants to ban free speech. And that is also the reason why I am now not anymore allowed to go to the UK. But it's pretty dystopian. I mean, it's a very severe limitation of my freedom. And as it says in the email, I cannot appeal. I'm not convicted of any crime. I'm not under suspicion of any crime. Keir Starmer just decided that someone like me is not welcome in the UK.
It is totally disgusting, totally chilling. And do stand by, do stay with us, because one place that Eva Vlaardingerbroek is not banned is here on Outspoken. We are hoping to speak to her imminently. But this is a real thing that's happening, by the way, to some people too who I am diametrically opposed to politically. Let's take George Galloway. But the fact he is no longer safe to broadcast from Starmer's disunited kingdom makes us an international disgrace.
I will not go back to the United Kingdom until they withdraw their threats against my wife and their implied threats against my work. If they think that I'm going to go back and allow my wife to fall into their hands, or I'm going to continue with my television work in a place where they can stop it by one means or another, then they are misunderestimating me, as George W. Bush might have put it. But tonight, as a government guest in a magnificent country, Malaysia, one of the most successful countries and one of the most successful societies in the whole world, to have an absolutely jam-packed meeting with me speaking in English, and not all of them, most of them, but not all of them understanding English, and to receive the reception that I did was just truly humbling. People who looked a decent age themselves telling me they'd been following me since they were a student, young men telling me that they have been following me since they were children, was truly inspiring and a very good indication of the global reach of this program and our audience and the clarity and purpose with which this program enunciates its own analysis of international events.
Free speech matters, and it matters wherever you are on the political spectrum. Where is the outrage? But it's not a surprise, given what is happening in Birmingham when someone attempts to fly our flag.
Turned up, you've got one car, two more coppers there, two car, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I brought the cavalry out tonight, boys. Look at that, people, all for some patriots putting a flag up. How many more are out here? This is what happens when Raise the Colours turn up. There's one blocking the public. There's one here. Wow. It's crazy. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7 little piggy wagons in a row. All for a flag. Mental, isn't it? Look. Raise the colours, stand up. Get the message out there.
Any sane individual can see the Islamist takeover and the left's bid to cover up the growing infraction of Sharia law by cracking down on free speech is a civilization crisis for our country. Here's the campaigning American independent journalist Nick Shirley summing up the situation perfectly.
The reason why the Labour Party, the Democrat Party in the UK, the reason why they're able to stay in power is because they'll tell these Muslims they can go ahead, do whatever they want. A Muslim actually should be more conservative than they would be a liberal because they don't stand for a lot of that progressive stuff. They're not pro-LGBTQ+, they're pro-family, right? And so he goes, well, it doesn't matter to them because they have Sharia law.
And later on today's show, the woman who I believe should be and may well be the next Prime Minister of Australia, One Nation leader Pauline Hanson, issues a shocking warning to the UK in a special Outspoken exclusive interview to mark the 1-month anniversary of the Islamist attack on Bondi Beach. Watch.
What has happened to your country? I'm devastated for the people, in Britain. And you know what? It's not by chance. The people have just sat back, didn't take an interest in politics. They can tell you who's in the footy match. They follow their football. There's no problem about it. But when it comes to politics, she'll be right. So they've taken no interest. So the people need to sit back and blame themselves for this as well, because you just didn't take an interest and get involved in politics to know what was happening around you. And you've allowed your country to get to the state. And the same thing's happening in Australia.
Much more of that later in the show. But according to London's Islamist failed Mayor Sadiq Khan, if you dare criticise the two-tier madness in our country and how the capital is now an out-of-control criminal hellhole, you just hate diversity.
My analysis is, we are a progressive city, a liberal city, a diverse city, a successful city. We've shown diversity is a strength, not a weakness. It makes us richer, not poorer. It makes us stronger, not weaker. And that's why I think people like President Trump, Vice President Vance, and other politicians and commentators hate us.
Can I ask you just finally?
So it's in this context of a failing country with a Prime Minister in Slippery Starmer who might be in charge, but is no longer leading as he's lost the grip of his Labour Party to the increasingly leftist, woke and Islamist wing. Do you remember when he wrote, Boris Johnson and his government have lurched from crisis to crisis and U-turn to U-turn to correct one error, even two might make sense. But when they've notched up 12 U-turns and rising, the only conclusion is serial incompetence. Well, I can now count 13 U-turns from Slippery Starmer in less than 2 years in power, proving the same conclusion, serial incompetence. Now, let me just take you through them. Number one, that national insurance hike. He promised no increases, then slapped employers with a massive rise to plug their black hole. Number two, the trans women definition. Starmer flip-flopped from calling trans women women to a flat no, the right thing, but still a U-turn. 3, the winter fuel payment. He axed it for millions of pensioners, then brought it back for lower earners after the outcry, too little, too late care. 4, the grooming gangs inquiry, where he dithered with a weak audit, then caved to pressure for a full national probe. Why the delay on child safety? I think we know. 5, tough talk on immigration. He used in that island of strangers line, then regretted the Enoch Powell vibes like a bad hangover. 6, cuts to welfare. Planned slashed disability benefits, but bottled it when his own MPs rebelled, which was spineless. 7, the waspy women compensation. He said no payout for pension injustices, then retook the decision after legal threats. 8, the 2-child benefit cap. He kept the Tory cap, whipped MPs against scrapping it, then ditched it in the budget. 9, the income tax freeze. He vowed no self taxes, then froze thresholds anyway to rake in billions. 10, workers' day one rights. He promised unfair dismissal protection from day one, then watered it down to 6 months after business concerns. 11, the farm inheritance tax. He doubled the threshold in a minor back down to farmers. 12, pub business rates. He ended COVID relief, leading to huge hikes, then threw in a new support package after pub owners kicked off. Cheers to that U-turn. 13, today, digital ID. He wanted to make it mandatory for jobs to crack down on illegals, then dropped the compulsion after a massive backlash. Another Starmer surrender. And so quite rightly today, Starmer was humiliated in Parliament by a bouncy Kemi Badenoch.
He says no one's going to listen to us. Who's going to listen to him? The winter fuel allowance, U-turn. Waspy women, U-turn. The 2-child benefit cap, U-turn. Grooming gangs inquiry, U-turn. The family farms tax, U-turn. Digital ID, U-turn. Jury trials, U-turn. We hope so. We hope so. I think that's going to be the next one, Mr. Speaker. Week after week, these poor people sitting behind him have to defend the indefensible, only for him to U-turn a few days later. Mr. Speaker, one of his cabinet ministers told a journalist that what's happening at the moment is extraordinarily bad. Another said we've gone through a catastrophic series of missteps. Yet another minister said, we are so unpopular at the moment, I've come to the conclusion it's worth rolling the dice on a new leader. They're right, aren't they?
Mr. Speaker, here's the difference. I changed my party, and that's why we stand here with a majority Labour government. She sits there with her party that lost 2/3 of their MPs at the last election, and she's losing more every week. They're queuing up to join the member of Clacton's laundry service for disgraced Tory politicians.
Now look, we will come to the Reform UK meltdown in just one moment, but you know Starmer is now in deep trouble, because when grilled by Badenoch over his back down on that hated promise of compulsory digital ID, he actually was so goddamn desperate, and you're going to have to wait for this, but it is worth it. He pulled out a very unwise, pre-scripted line of sexual innuendo. The Kama Sutra.
Mr. Speaker, can I welcome the Prime Minister's latest U-turn? I feel like I say that every week. Mandatory digital ID was a rubbish policy, and we on this side of the House are glad to see the back of it. Yeah. But yesterday, the Health Secretary said the Prime Minister's New Year's resolution should be, and I quote, to try to get it right first. To try to get it right first time. To try to get it right first time. Yes, you did say that. You did say that. My question is, does he agree?
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I'm determined to make it harder for people to work illegally in this country, and that's why there will be checks, they will be digital, and they will be mandatory. And I'll tell her what this government is doing, whether on planning, child poverty, employment rights, investing in our NHS, we're taking the right choices for Britain, and they oppose every single one of them. And she talks about U-turns and consistency. From the party that used to recognise the challenge of climate change, and now they run from it, who promised to cut immigration, but then lost control of it, who once took great pride in our diversity, now they talk of deporting our neighbours to achieve cultural coherence. And Mr. Speaker, on consistency, don't get me started on 5 Prime Ministers, 6 Chancellors, 8 Home Secretaries, 16 Housing Ministers. They had more positions in 14 years than the Kama Sutra. No wonder they're knackered and they left the country screwed.
Now, Starmer, talking about lots of sex, given the secrets he's concealing about the true shape of his family, is, in my opinion, absolutely insane. But it shows this is a desperate man who feels he has nothing to lose. Which is why he's showing the sort of passion against the completely confected grok bikini scandal, which no one in the USA gives a damn about, by the way, that he was never able to muster, or the rape gang. And those white girls, completely destroyed by Pakistani Muslims. Today, he used PMQs to make a double attack on his true enemies, Elon Musk and Nigel Farage.
The actions of Grok and X are disgusting and they're shameful. And frankly, the decision to then turn this into a premium service is horrific. And we're absolutely determined to take action here. We've made it clear that X has to act, and if not, Ofcom has our full backing and will introduce and are introducing legislation. Mr. Speaker, to update the House, I have been informed this morning that X is acting to ensure full compliance with UK law. If so, that is welcome, but we're not going to back down. They must act. We will take the necessary measures. We will strengthen existing laws and prepare for legislation if it needs to go further. And Ofcom will continue its independent investigation. It's astonishing that Reform defend Musk on this issue. It is complete. I said the images are disgusting. Their position is disgusting on this. This is weaponising images of women and children that should never be made. And that's why we're acting. Reform refused to do anything about it. But more than that, the point she raises, they would scrap the Online Safety Act that stops children accessing content like pornography, suicide, self-harm and eating disorders. They're an absolute disgrace and know nothing about protecting children.
Sometimes the absurdity of this situation is best summed up by Burnside, who wrote, "Hello, Prime Minister Albanese, it's Keir here. I wondered if you too were fed up of getting community noted repeatedly and would like to join my coalition of the willing in banning X. So far, it's me, President Xi, and the Ayatollahs." Now, Rupert Lowe is quite rightly pushing ahead with plans for legal action against the government if the off-communists do indeed.
We've said, and we've consulted with our own lawyers, if Labour tries to shut down X in any way, we will legally challenge that.
But shouldn't it be Reform proposing that? And this is the problem within Farage's party. Because every time that they take woke, wet, Tory defectors who destroyed this country, they betray their true mission. Watch.
What do you make of Nadeem Zahawi joining your former party, Reform UK?
Well, I think it's an extraordinary appointment, Peter. Had I been part of Reform, I would have strongly counselled Nigel Farage and Reform that it was a bad idea. I don't think that the British people want a sort of rehashed Tory party.
Even Slippery Starmer was able to make something of the capitulation at PMQs.
The IKEA shadow cabinet. The trouble is, nobody wants to buy it. It's mainly constructed of old dead wood. And every time you lose a nut, it defects to Reform. No wonder he's joined the Tory migration to Reform. Mr. Speaker, it's the second Boris wave. I don't know which is more pitiful, the flood of former Tory MPs deserting her sinking ship, or the Reform Party so desperate to launder any old failed Tory politician.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister doesn't need to worry about me. I'm all right.
Even long-time Farage supporters and colleagues, like Godfrey Bloom, have now withdrawn their vote from Reform UK after Zahawi.
I supported wholeheartedly Reform because I thought it was the only game in town. I'm left scratching my bloody head at the moment. We now have in Reform 8 failed Conservative MPs in the lineup. That plumber fellow Mullins, who was very, very hostile to Brexit. And now we've got this comedian who used to be the Chancellor of the Exchequer of the Conservative Party, who was fiddling his tax returns. You know people, do you not, by the company they keep. So he's got rid of Rupert Lowe and Ben Habib, and he's brought in all these comedians and cowboys. I'm sorry, Nigel, but I don't know what you're up to, and I just don't know what to say. But you won't be getting my humble support at the next general election, that's for sure.
And Godfrey joins me now on the Superstar panel alongside, for the first time in 2026, Father Calvin Robinson. So great to have you both here. Of course, do stand by too, because Eva Vlaardingerbroek will be joining us momentarily to talk about this shocking ban from entering the United Kingdom. Father Calvin, can you believe this?
I genuinely can't believe it. It's insane. Many people have been tweeting the same thing that I tweeted, in that Pakistani Muslim rape gangs are allowed in. Terrorists are allowed in. Extremists of all kinds are allowed in. Little armless white European Eva is not allowed in. She is denied and rejected. What is going on? Our entire entry system is upside down. I get worried every time I go back home. I really do. It should not be like that. I've just got back to America after Christmas. I snuck into the country for a few days to celebrate Christmas with my friends and family. And it's horrible, the fact that I feel like if I tweet or let anyone know that I'm there, I'm going to get arrested or kicked out. Like, what's happened to our country?
It's absolutely disgusting. And that's why I showed solidarity today to George Galloway. Yeah, we're totally politically opposed. But I absolutely believe he has a right to free speech in the United Kingdom. The fact that he is scared to travel here, just like you, Father Calvin, is terrible. Godfrey, this from Paul Joseph Watson. Last month, the UK government welcomed into the country a man who told people to burn Downing Street and said, "I don't like white people," and called British people dogs and monkeys. Apparently he was conducive to the public good. I mean, Godfrey, how much longer are we going to put up with this? If you are now a right-wing star on the international scene, you are not allowed in Starmer's Britain.
It's quite extraordinary. I'm an old geezer now. I was born in 1949.
But you've still got so much vigour, Godfrey.
I've never seen anything like this in my life, that's for sure. But on a different note, if I may become my normal misogynist or allegedly misogynist self,
I'd expect nothing less.
What is wrong with Keir Starmer? Did you ever see such a beautiful blonde girl? If I'd been the Prime Minister, the first thing she did when she got here would be come and have a cocktail with me.
Well, it maybe won't help with some of the rumours surrounding Starmer. Godfrey, we saw your video just then in regards to Reform UK. Now, a lot of people will know you have a long professional history with Nigel Farage. You were very close. At one point, after this Nadeem Zahawi defection, you are now saying you will not vote for Reform UK at the next election.
Well, I don't see how I can with any sense of honour or commitment or conviction, can I? I mean, he has brought in a few ex-Conservatives. I haven't taken a great deal of issue with that. But this is a particularly nasty Conservative. This is a particularly bad one. And this is one of the reasons that the Conservative Party has virtually collapsed. It was just like this fellow and one or two others like him. He is the epitome of what was all bad with the Conservative Party, or was for the last Conservative administration. To bring him in, and the other dude, Mullins, the plumber character, who was so hostile to breakfast and slagged Nigel Farage off at every opportunity, and he's been brought in. I can only assume, and I don't know what your viewers will say, he was a relatively rich man, this fellow, an ex-Chancellor of the Exchequer, who was got rid of for hanky-panky with his blasted tax returns. I'd be very surprised if he didn't write a big fat cheque to Reform.
Indeed. And Father Calvin, of course, he was asking for a peerage. It's really depressing what's happening, isn't it, Father Calvin? Where is there hope on the right in the United Kingdom? Where is the hope? Is it Rupert Lowe, who is potentially going to launch a political party?
I was with a group of friends in London the other day, and they were saying to me, you've got to stop bad-mouthing Reform. Reform is the one. They are going to be the guys who break the uniparty system. And I was like, I'm not seeing it so far. And they said, give us the benefit of the doubt. And then what happens this week? He goes and invites Nadeem Zahawi. This guy is literally a drug pusher. Remember when the JCVI said that young people didn't need the COVID jab? And Nadeem said, oh, no, they do. And he was the one pushing for young people to have it, when all the medical advice at the time was saying that actually people who are elderly and or vulnerable may want to take this jab, but people who are young and fit and have a good immune system would not benefit from taking the jab. He was the one insisting that they take it. And yes, you're absolutely right, Godfrey. This man is a money man. I've no doubt that that plays some part in this. Remember, he's one of the founding members of YouGov, the polling system that always seems to benefit the Conservative Party, and as of late has been benefiting the Reform Party. Interesting. I'm not painting any illusions there, but it's interesting that happens. And also, it's very, very interesting that he wanted a peerage. He made it very clear to his party that as a former Chancellor, after being Chancellor for what was it, 1 day or 2 days before he stabbed former Prime Minister Boris Johnson in the back. Anyway, after being a former Chancellor, he thinks he deserves to become a peer, and it seems he's been rejected by his party, the Conservative Party. Coincidence happens that a week after he gets rejected by the party, he joins another party. These spineless, snaky career politicians slithering their way up the slippery pole of power disgust me, and it's a shame that Nigel Farage is getting in bed with people like this.
The UK is once again a laughingstock across the Western world. Today, our tinpot dictator Slippery Starmer, fresh off his bid to ban Elon Musk's X, has actually banned the right-wing darling, the incredible Eva Vlaardingerbroek, from entering our country. Now, you'll remember, Eva was one of the stars of Tommy Robinson's Unite the Kingdom rally just months ago, calling for remigration. And just 3 days ago, she described Starmer as an evil and despicable man. Eva, it is utterly astonishing to me, and it is so great to have you on Outspoken. Trust me, the outrage in this country over the decision to ban you is widespread. But it feels absolutely not a coincidence that it came just 3 days after that post.
I mean, it can't be a coincidence, Dan, because for people who don't know, I don't have any imminent plans of going to the United Kingdom right now. I went, as you said, in September to join the rally. I spoke there. It was amazing. And I was planning to go again to the new rally in May, but I guess that is now off the table. But I didn't have like any imminent plans. So they just emailed me this. I was checking my phone this morning and I was like, what is this? What is this update on my travel authorization? And I opened it and I saw this email from the government, from the UK government, saying that I was not conducive to the public good and that therefore they had revoked my ETA. And I was like, what? Why is this happening? Like, why right now? And then I realized, oh wait, 3 days ago, I criticized Keir Starmer about his attacks on free speech, ironically. And now I get banned from traveling to the UK. There is no such thing as coincidence.
Absolutely not. And you are such a big threat, Eva, because I just want to remind everyone what you said on stage. It was one of those show-stopping moments watched by millions across the globe at Tommy Robinson's Unite the Kingdom rally. Look at this.
What if you speak the truth? Well, in this country, you run the risk of getting thrown in jail for longer than the immigrant who has raped your daughter. That is the UK in 2025 under Keir Starmer. Nothing short of a tyrannical state. But, ladies and gentlemen, do not despair. Do not become demoralized, because that is exactly what they want you to do. Because when I look at you, when I look at this sea of flags, I know that it is far from over for us.
What an incredible moment, Eva. But obviously, you can see that our government is terrified, because there were 3 million people on the streets that day. They are losing control of the narrative. And obviously, they can't ban me. They can't ban Tommy Robinson. We're British citizens. They can.
Yeah, I think they're terrified of that happening again in May. So I'm sure that that's also one of the reasons why they did this. But it's it's honestly surreal. We all know that this is true, right? I knew what I was saying on that stage. I know about all of these cases of innocent people being locked up by Keir Starmer for expressing their opinions, for criticizing his policies, for calling out the two-tier justice in your country. And now I've become a personal victim of that. That is, it brings it to a new level for me. We all know that this is true, but then when it happens to you, when it hits you in the face, it's like, oh, wow. I guess I'm not surprised, but it is a very, very restrictive measure, of course, because as you could see in the email, I have no way of appealing this. They literally wrote, there's no way to appeal this decision. So they've just made it, and there's nothing that you can do about it. I mean, that is an unfree country. And they've underlined that. They've confirmed that now for me in an undeniable fashion with this decision that they've made.
It's like he knows that he is losing and he doesn't care anymore, because what else would explain the fact that he is going to war with the Trump administration too over X? It's embarrassing. So he's actually appealing now to who is really controlling him, Eva. And I have said for a long time, it's not really Starmer who is in control. He is a globalist puppet, in the same way that Albanese is in Australia, in the same way that Carney is in Canada.
Yes, yeah, of course, you're totally right. I mean, this is a much larger problem than just Keir Starmer. They're trying to send a message, let's say, to people like you, to people like me, who think the way that we do, who say the things that we say, and they want to show you, look, if you do that, these are the consequences. And the hopes are, of course, that other people will therefore refrain from saying these things, from voicing their opinion, because they don't want to share the same fate. Right? But I agree with you that I think that this is the act of a desperate man, let's say. I don't understand how they don't see that this is just going to create more backlash. Like, it's so out in the open. You know, you could have, I mean, it's like he has tyrant written on his forehead this way. But I guess it is sadly still the case that they are able to get away with this. I don't know for how much longer. I really surely hope that Keir Starmer won't stay your prime minister for much longer. But for now, we'll have to see what we can do, because fact of the matter is, I am not able to come and visit the UK, a country that I love. You know, I have lots of dear friends like yourself in the United Kingdom. I converted to Catholicism in the United Kingdom just 2 years ago. It's, you know, I love the UK.
And we
now,
need you. We desperately need people like you, because it's tough here. Trust me, it's really tough. And people like you are able to shine a light on the true horror, which I guess this decision will. Look, I don't know if you've seen this, but Tommy Robinson has just weighed in now, reposting you and writing, unknown invaders pour into the UK all day, every day, put into hotels before they start raping our women and children. Yet if you talk badly about Keir Starmer, you're instantly banned from entering legally. Britain is now a communist country. Do you agree with his conclusion?
Yes, it is the absolute confirmation of the what you guys constantly say, two-tier Keir, right? The two-tier justice system. It's true. I mean, if you are an illegal immigrant crossing the channel, you can get into the United Kingdom easily, and nobody's asking whether or not you are conducive to society or conducive to the public's good. But yet, if you are a 29-year-old blonde, white lawyer who wants to come and talk about the things that are going wrong in the UK and are also going wrong terribly in Europe, because trust me, it's not much better here over on the continent, well, then they just say, no, not you. You're not allowed to enter.
Indeed. But isn't one of the biggest problems we've got, Eva, still in the United Kingdom? And look, they are dying, and it is a long, slow death. But the mainstream media, I don't think, will utter a word on this. So they were totally obsessed when it involved this white-hating Egyptian re-entering the United Kingdom. You know, there were campaigns. Even, you know, we saw celebrities, you know, saying that this is terrible. Olivia Colman reading out the poems of the white-hating, English-hating man. But I have a feeling, and I will track it, and I will let you know, but I have a feeling that I will be watching the news on the British Bashing Corporation tonight, on Woke ITV, on Sly News, and they will not utter a word, because we still have information control in this country, which again, I believe is why Starmer wants to ban X, because if you go onto the X platform today, this is right now the biggest story in the United Kingdom. But there's that disconnect.
There is. I mean, this goes either two ways, right? Either of two ways. Either they say nothing at all, because I think that, let's say the average citizen, whether they are on the right or on the left, maybe just apolitical, will read something like this and be like, oh, that goes a little bit far, doesn't it? Like, what is that girl's crime exactly? They'll ask. And then the answer would be, well, there is no crime. You know, she's not even suspected of anything apart from voicing her opinion. And that really wouldn't make Starmer look great. So probably they'll just say nothing. And if they do, it will be a short story, and they'll take one of my quotes out of context, and they'll say, oh, this far-right extremist has been banned, or they will say that I'm not banned. They will say, oh, she just has to apply for a visa now, as if I'm ever gonna get that, right? So
no way. And you were so right. It's the evil of this far-right term that is constantly and consistently used against people like you, used against people like me. I don't know if you saw, but Reform UK just this week, Eva, announced that they were having a Muslim candidate to run against Sadiq Khan for the London mayoralty, a woman called Layla Cunningham, who just so happens to have an Islamic tattoo on her sleeve, which I uncovered in a photo. She went on the mainstream media and described me as far right. And so this term is used, and I just wonder how you feel about the use of that term specifically. Do you embrace it? Do you lean into it? Do you think we need to redefine it? Because, of course, the mainstream media just say, Eva Vlaardingerbroek, far right extremist, and so it's a matter of safety. And of course, if you're an ordinary person sitting at home, they probably assume that you're a neo-Nazi.
That's of course the goal. They want ordinary people who don't quite know you, haven't read everything that you've ever said, to think, oh, that person's a Nazi. So even if I maybe agree with this one little thing that she said, I obviously can't express that I agree with her, because then I will also be called a Nazi. And that is the evil of labeling people far right. Now, personally, honestly, Dan, I have just stopped caring. I have in my ex bio shield maiden of the far right, because that is what I got called by the Dutch media establishment right as I started out my political career when I was 23 years old, and I had given one speech, about modern day feminism, and instantly, one speech, I had just stepped foot in the political arena for like a second, and they labeled me as the shield maiden of the far right because of the way that I look. Of course, blonde hair, blue eyes, somewhat right wing equals Nazi. That was their story, right? And so now I'm 29 now. I've been in this for 6 years. I really honestly couldn't care less what they call me. So I lean into it in that sense, because I want to show people that if you stop being afraid of what they call you, then they actually do not have power over you anymore.
That is so true. But of course, at 29, someone with a family and all of that, how concerned are you about your safety now? Given you do have the entire establishment trying to brand you far right, your profile is growing by the week. And of course, we haven't spoken since the assassination of Charlie Kirk. Do you worry about that?
Well, obviously, I worry about that, but I cannot let fear guide me. I have more faith in God than I do have fear in my heart. So that's the only thing that I try to stick by every day. And also, just giving up is not an option. It's not an option, because then they win. So I'm not afraid. It's true. I have a family. I have a young child. He just turned 1, our baby. And that is something that adds a different dimension to all of this. That is definitely for sure. I saw someone joking, oh, Eva, you should just try to come to the UK anyway and see what happens. They might detain you. And the first thing that I thought was, I would have been able to do that, 2 years ago. But now I'm like, no, I can't do that. I have a child. I have a baby that needs his mom. So I can't get detained, not even for half a day. How am I going to breastfeed him? And those are the types of thoughts that are in my head right now. And of course, once again, that fear that cannot be what leads me, and it won't, because this is something that I'm doing also for our son. We're doing this for our children, not just for ourselves, because we want our world, our civilization that is already on the brink of being destroyed. I mean, clearly, look at what is happening. We want that to not happen, so that our children have a future, and that they have a future in the home of their ancestors. So yeah, we need to keep fighting, Dan.
We do. Well, look, you're an incredible woman. You are a brave woman. Thank you so much for spending the time with us on Outspoken, because as I say, even if the mainstream media do not cover this story, Eva, it is the #1 topic in the United Kingdom right now. People are disgusted. People are horrified. But I guess my hope is that this wakes some more people up, especially in the Trump administration, to quite how bad things are here now.
I hope so too.
Thank you so much. The brilliant Eva Vlaardingerbroek. Breaking today, Sly News has gone full on leftist, poaching Cathy Newman. The hard left presenter humiliated live on air by Jordan Peterson as their new star political presenter. So as they die in the ratings war, because they are now being beaten every single day by GB News, Sly has made a decision to just show their true colours, to not even hide it anymore. Here was the announcement.
Hi everyone, I'm Kathy. I'm thrilled to be joining Sky News with a brand new programme packed with exclusives. I love the drama of politics, the outsized personalities, the huge decisions that affect us all. But I also love big stories, so I'm going to be sniffing them out in Westminster and far beyond. I can't wait to get cracking.
Yeah, well, of course you do. But you have zero credibility. We know who you are. And Jordan Peterson exposed you to the world. I haven't forgotten that, but let's just reminisce.
Why should your right to freedom of speech trump a trans person's right not to be offended?
Because in order to be able to think, you have to risk being offensive. I mean, look at the conversation we're having right now. You know, like you're certainly willing to risk offending me in the pursuit of truth. Why should you have the right to do that? It's been rather uncomfortable.
Well, I'm very glad I put you on the spot.
Well,
I'm very glad that I've exercised my freedom of speech.
You get my point. It's like you're doing what you should do, which is digging a bit to see what the hell's going on.
So
and that is what you should do. But you're exercising your freedom of speech to certainly risk offending me. And that's fine. I think more power to you as far as I'm concerned.
So you haven't sat there and I'm just trying to work that out. I mean,
ha, gotcha.
You have got me. You have got me. I'm trying to work that through in my head. Yeah. It took a while.
It did.
You were humiliated, quite rightly. Her other greatest hit involved being hung up on by Isabel Oakeshott on Times Radio. What?
I haven't hit the headlines. You've hit the headlines, Isabel.
Well, maybe if you broke some stories, you would.
Well, I've broken a couple of stories this week since you mentioned it, but don't worry about that. I'm not going to go into that because I haven't hit that. This is not me being interviewed on this stuff. Right. What I want to ask you, Isabel, is here we are that you ripped up an NDA to dump Matt Hancock in it. You dumped Vicky Price in it. Wait, let me finish. She ended up going to prison on the back of correspondence with you about speeding points. You based an unsubstantiated allegation that a former Prime Minister engaged in a sex act with a dead pig on a single source. You also published text messages and emails with the Leave.eu founder Aaron Banks, which were shared with you privately. What I want to ask you, Isabel, is how can any source trust you again? Well, Isabel Oakeshott, I'm afraid, has terminated that interview, but we will...
To my superstar panel, Godfrey Bloom and Father Calvin Robinson. I mean, Father Calvin, in some ways, I actually prefer this. I prefer the honesty. Like Sly News is now the MSNBC, or it's now MS Now, isn't it, of the United Kingdom. They're not even trying to hide it anymore. This is a leftist operation. By the way, a failing leftist operation dying on its ass with its lineup of the likes of Beth Rigby and Sophie Ridge.
It is quite sad, isn't it? The whole of the legacy media is imploding, and we've been talking about this for a while, but they're scrambling at what do they do next. So they're trying to launch these online platforms and thinking they can just come into our space and take over. But unfortunately, people have already found new audiences. Audiences have found new creators, and they found people they can trust, like Dan Wootton Outspoken, like the Common Sense Crusade and Fox and Father. People are no longer turning to people like Kathy Newman and Beth Rigby because they know that they are so biased and they actually have an agenda, which is not to report on the news, but to shape the news and to shape the narrative. We saw that massively throughout Brexit. We saw that as well throughout COVID. And I think people have reached a point now where most people are awake to the indoctrination and the propaganda and have had enough of it. And so these people are done. That industry is dead. And as the common phrase goes, you do not hate the media enough.
Yeah. I mean, Godfrey Bloom, the British bashing corporation, now overtaken by YouTube as the biggest broadcaster in the United Kingdom. So isn't Sky now in sort of the last chance saloon anyway?
Yes, I think they all are. And I think the problem is, as you, of course, will well know, some of these people, Kathy Newman and Emily Maitlis and all those sort of people, dreadful people, with actually no great depth of... They got no great depth in them. They're not particularly well educated in the traditional sense that I would argue. But they're paid huge amounts of money by the establishment. Big money, hundreds of £1,000s a year. They are never, therefore, are they going to put anybody from the deep state side, if you will, on the spot? So it's all patty cake, baker's man, etc. They don't actually do anything or achieve anything or expose anything. They're a waste of space. And they wouldn't, would they? I mean, if you were on £500,000 a year like Laura Cheeseburger as the political correspondent of the BBC, would you risk it from your paymaster? Of course you wouldn't. And probably neither would I.
And then you come to the mainstream media on the right, which I have been exposing this week, specifically GB News and Talk, and their sort of weird, like, capitulation, I guess is the word, to Reform UK, certainly since we were there, Father Calvin. But I've shamed Talk into reversing their ban on Ben Habib, the leader of Advance UK. So Howard Cox confirmed this last night, writing, "Great to see Advance UK party leader Ben Habib back on Talk TV. It's been 6 months. Hopefully it won't be his last." And sure enough, Kevin O'Sullivan, the presenter, did confirm, delighted to announce that after his return to Talk TV last night, Advance UK leader Ben Habib will join me on my show, The Political Asylum, every Tuesday from 8 till 8:30. Well, good decision. And I do give them credit for it, but they were shamed into it because it was an utterly disgusting thing that the moment that Ben Habib launched Advance UK, that he was banned from Talk TV. I do note the ban on him from GB News continues. This is what happened during his return to Talk TV last night. Watch.
You will be astonished how many of our viewers and listeners get in touch and saying, can't you persuade Farage and Ben Habib and Rupert Lowe to all get together and mend the bridges, heal their differences and forge forward as a united force again? What do you feel about that? What would be your answer to those people who say, come on, Ben, mend the bridges with Farage, get involved with reform again? Same for Rupert Lowe, but he's not here to talk for himself. What do you say to people like that?
I imagine Rupert would say what I'm about to say, which is that none of us wanted the split. The split only came about because Farage... So Farage is a fantastic campaigner. He's a fantastic tactician. What Farage doesn't have is a political philosophy and a strategic direction. And there's no way I would have split from Reform. No way if I had believed that Farage would stay true to the mission, which is to restore the United Kingdom, which is the name that Rupert effectively adopted for his movement, Restore Britain. We have to go back to a position where this country understands what it is, where British citizenry means something, where our borders are enforced and so on and so forth. Farage, being the tactician that he is, I think is actually, for the first time in his career, missed where the British people are and the requirement not to take the easy route by getting into bed with a whole load of failed politicians who might give the impression of momentum. He should have eschewed that ostensibly easy route and taken the route actually, which I believe will be easier and is the correct route, which is to stand up for what the British people want. And what they want is serious, principled politics, actually putting this country first. It's as simple as that. Farage must know that in his heart of hearts, but I think in the pursuit of power, he's made some very, very big mistakes.
So, Father Calvin Robinson, I am delighted that Talk TV have reversed this ban. It's a shame, I guess, that they were almost forced into it because there was so much backlash about how they're operating as propagandists for Reform UK. I mean, Jeremy Kyle, the breakfast host, even admitted that he was media training the Reform UK candidates all weekend long. It's odd, isn't it?
It's very odd. I don't know what Rupert Murdoch's game is, or Rebecca's game for that matter, but I know on the other end at GB News, I know what their game is, and Sir Paul Marshall, of course, as we know, is the owner of Unheard, owner of Spectator, major stakeholder in GB News, tried to purchase The Telegraph, and of course Farage is also a stakeholder of GB News, so we know that GB News is the Reform platform. I imagine that Rupert and Rebecca also see that Reform are pretty much guaranteed some part in the next government at least, and so they want to get in bed with the next power because this is how people in power operate. They want more power and influence, right? It's a great shame, but you're absolutely right. It's good to see Kevin O'Sullivan getting Ben Habib back on. I liked that tweet this morning to give him a bit of encouragement to say, yes, this is good. Get people on our side and people with difference of opinion. It's a good thing, for goodness sake. It is a shame to see that, as you call them, the right of British media. I barely think they're on the right these days at all, to be honest. But it's a shame to see them all taking reforms strategy rather than actually trying to speak up for the British people. Because I think the British people are confused right now. I see so many people who are like hardline reform types who are lost and upset, and they kind of put all their eggs in one basket. They thought reform was it. This is the only approach we've got to break down this system. And then they're like, oh, Reform are exactly like the Conservative Party, so much so that they actually have all the same people as the Conservative Party. And some of them are doubling down as best they can as a coping mechanism, and some of them are really like, okay, so we are totally disenfranchised now. Like Kevin said, I'd love to see the right come together. I'd love to see Ben Habib and Rupert Lowe at least come together. I don't think they could ever reunite with Nigel because he's just such a backstabbing snake who can't work with people who shine brighter than him. But I would love to see the other people come together. And it's the same with Nick Tanconi and UKIP. If all the smaller parties on the right kind of banded together, centred around Christian nationalism, around British patriotism, something could happen. But we've got a couple of years left till the next election. So let's see what they manage to do.
Yes, and I'm an open platform for all of these people, all of these parties. Nick Tanconi, the UKIP leader, will actually be here on Friday. But Godfrey, am I correct in saying you've made a bit of an announcement of your own today and joined Restore Britain, Rupert Lowe's organisation? Is that correct?
Well, yes, I did. Because I have my own channels and my own stuff, I didn't think I could be a member of any political party. I don't think it would be fair to anybody, least of all to myself. But I could join. I thought I could join Restore. I think they've got some very good ideas. And I think what the country is lacking at the moment in opposition is some form of strategic depth, some sort of sophisticated ideas to go into the strategy, the long-term strategy, which is really going to be 2 or 3 years' time when the next election comes along, assuming this government go that far. You're not going to get that with the leadership of Reform, which is basically a little team of people who, well, basically Arthur Daly with a public school accent. It's not going to work. And even now, we're beginning to see the wheels fall off.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are. But look, it's brilliant to have you both with your platforms. Godfrey, where can people find you?
They can get me Godfrey Bloom, smallcase.uk, and they get loads and loads of words of wisdom.
Yes, no, I love your words of wisdom. I absolutely do. Please come back soon. And Father Calvin Robinson, Happy New Year to you. Of course, Father Calvin on YouTube, also the co-host of Reclaim the Media's Fox and Father. But now it's time for the uncancelled interview. Sometimes one event is just so historic, so horrifying, that it can change a country, change a world, certainly change a political perception. And 1 month ago, exactly today, that horrifying Islamist attack on Bondi Beach, which sickened us all, was that moment for Australia. Pauline Hanson, who is a hero in my view and has been for decades, was sent to jail by the Australian state for fighting against what she foresaw and what last month so terrifyingly came true. Part of her experience in Australia was motivated by what she saw happening here in the disunited kingdom with the Islamist takeover. But something extraordinary happened last month. All of a sudden, Australia's mainstream media, Australia's elite class, Australia's corrupt free speech hating politicians controlled by the globalists were no longer setting the narrative. Look at what happened the day after the attack at Bondi Beach, where every other mainstream politician was booed. Not Pauline. Watch.
I survived with my little baby, shielding my 7-month-old baby, trying not to suffocate him. And I just want to say, as a Jewish Australian, thank you. Thank you for what you have done for our community. We feel very left out.
Please don't give up. I haven't given up on my country. Don't you give up. Okay? And I'm so pleased to see that you're safe and your baby's safe.
This is the people that lost their 10-year-old child.
I'm so
we
sorry.
lost our Matilda. We can't tell how sad we are. Like the little bride girl, she shouldn't go this way. She was 10 years old. It's unbelievable.
Pauline, why do you think you're the only politician that I've witnessed in the hours that I've been here welcomed by a round of applause?
That's up to the people to say. I've only ever been myself. I've always ever spoken from my heart, and I believe in my country, and you know, trying to work with my fellow Australians to give them a better way of life.
But even after that brutal massacre, even after those scenes, the Australian mainstream media still refuse to understand what's really happening.
You said you want to eradicate the hate. How on earth do you do that?
You don't bring in people with their hate. You don't bring in people that are not going to assimilate and respect our culture and our way of life here.
How do you single them out? How do you find them?
This is not the place to discuss it. I have discussed it previously. It's a day that, you know, I want to be here, show my respects to the Jewish community and to all Australians.
And God bless her. But I understand Pauline's anger. I mean, come on. She's been talking about the solutions for 30 years, for God's sake. Feel her anger.
You keep voting for these bastards that actually don't have pride in our country and our Australian flag, then be prepared to get what we're going to get. And we've seen it now with the division that is happening, the hatred that we see on the streets, the escalating crime, and that's only going to escalate even further unless we take a stand on this and make sure you know who you vote for next time. And if you look at what's happening in England, Birmingham, 30% of Muslims there, and they're taking over the councils. You've got, you know, Sharia law courts. They're losing their identity, their culture in England, and the same damn thing is going to happen here. It is an absolute basket case of what's happening out there, and no wonder the Australian people are so angry. But I'll keep fighting about the mass migration. It is about mass immigration that's happening here, and it's destroying our standard of living, way of life, and our access to services that every Australian has a right to. But the government brings them in purely for the vote, and the fools out there keep voting for them. You're going to suffer. You will suffer.
Of course, the Australian Parliament's about to return, and one of the biggest ironies is that Pauline Hanson is currently banned. She's an elected representative. She's banned. And you know why? Because she dared to wear the burka in the Senate. Watch.
President, a dress code might be a choice of the senators, but racism should not be the choice of the Senate. This is a racist senator displaying blatant racism and Islamophobia, President, and someone should pull her up on that.
Senator Faruqi.
And it is you in the chair. You should be pulling her up on that.
Pauline Hanson, it is a pleasure to have you. And we've got to start, of course, by the fact that today is the 1-month anniversary of that shooting on Bondi Beach, which killed 15 Australians. Has your country changed, Pauline? Have the people finally woken up?
Yes, they have, Dan. They really have. I think it was starting to happen before this with the assassination of Charlie Kirk. And people, especially the generation, they said, what the hell is happening? So it did happen. I think the Bondi massacre was the nail in the coffin for these major political parties will not address the real issue, what's happening in Australia. And the Australian people, you know, watching that clip, it just brought back so many, you know, emotional memories for me. It was a very emotional day to be amongst the people and talk to the grandparents of the youngest child who was 10 years of age that was assassinated. So it was, but, you know, this government that we have led by Albanese, the Prime Minister, are pathetic, weak, do not have the understanding of what the public want and need and what they're asking for. And I'll keep pushing forward. I'll keep stating my case and what I think needs to happen. And we're going back to Parliament next week. I won't be there. As you stated, I can't enter the Parliament. I'm banned for another 4 days of sitting days. So I won't be able to have a say on the floor of Parliament.
It's disgusting. And that is because you went into the Senate and wore the burqa before this attack.
Correct. It wasn't for the attack. It was actually before the attack. I was trying to move a private senator's bill to actually ban the burqa and full face coverings in Australia. I was denied the right to even introduce my bill, let alone debating it and voting on it. They just shut me down straight away. So then I thought, well, if you won't allow, you know, if you don't want to vote to ban the burqa, then I'll wear it. So I went up into my office, I put it on, and I came down the chamber. Well, you saw the reaction from that. And so anyway, because I refused to take it off and I refused to leave the chamber, so they moved a motion to ban me from the chamber for 7 sitting days. It's the strongest ban that's ever been imposed on any sitting member in the life of the Parliament.
It's insanity. And I do want to talk more about the burqa later in this show. But one of the most chilling things, Pauline, I think for me to witness since this Bondi attack is the fact that Australia and your left-wing government, and remember, Albanese is absolutely in lockstep with our evil tinpot dictator Slippery Starmer. Currently, they're plotting to try and ban Elon Musk's X. It's insane, it's nuts, it's draconian. And after the attack, Pauline, I kept seeing Albanese seeming to blame this Islamist terror on speech, on free speech. He seemed to be suggesting that actually draconian measures to shut down platforms like X could have stopped this terror attack. Is he just in complete denial about the Islamist threat?
He's a part of it. Years ago, in his younger days, he was associated with standing up for Palestinians, and that was a speech that he made years ago. So he is very, you know, left-leaning, and he's never really addressed the anti-Semitism that we have in Australia since the attacks of 2023. And his government's done absolutely nothing about it. And people know this, and they're angry about it. I've always supported the Jewish community. They should never have been treated that way. The students, they were abused on our streets, the Jewish community, but he never did anything about it. He never did anything about to pull up the hate preachers, what they were spewing, you know, kill the Jews or gas the Jews outside the Opera House. It was never addressed. Anyway, with the Bondi massacre, his then whole focus was he's never raised the issue about Islamic fundamentalist terrorists. He will not refer to that. And he's in denial to actually see where the real issue and the real problem is. So what he's done is defected to now the gun lobby to address, you know, getting rid of our stronger gun laws. We've got the strongest gun laws in the world. And he wants to then go and attack law-abiding Australians, farmers, gun owners, you know, shooters, Olympians, and different ones that have their guns. And he's going to do this. It's going to cost the taxpayers $1 billion plus to buy back the guns. And it's wrong. It's not these people that should be going after. So the laws that he's introducing at the moment have been rushed through. And the legislation was only handed down on Monday night. We're having an inquiry with it. The federal police haven't had time to really investigate it. There's been no community consultation. And this is really basically going to shut down freedom of speech from anyone, including myself. If I was to actually question about the immigration coming to Australia, I could be up on these charges and face a 5-year jail term.
Indeed. And I mean, this is their plan. Pauline, this is an international plan, isn't it? You'll be well aware of the fact that this Labour government is currently pushing through in the United Kingdom plans to make Islamophobia illegal, to effectively introduce a blasphemy law through the back door that could make a conversation like this banned. I mean, it is truly chilling. The other thing I noticed with Albanese, Pauline, is that any time he even slightly went there on the issue of Islamism, he immediately spoke about a, in my view, invisible far right. Does he put someone like you in that category?
Oh, of course. He's got no time for me whatsoever. And I've got to be honest, I haven't got any time for him. The sooner I see the back end of him, the better. We need to get rid of him. Australians are waking up to them. We've, One Nation, we've grown in the polls. At the moment, we're level with the coalition government and in our polling, and polling extremely well. But I don't take that for granted. And I've got to prove to the people that One Nation can produce, the goods to govern for them with common sense policies and giving them back their Australian identity and who we are, and stop shutting down, a lot of areas, whether it's our Australian identity, whether it's to do with, the agricultural industry or the mining industry or the industries of manufacturing. All this is being impacted in this country by the Albanese Labor government. And, the Bondi massacre, that was another huge big issue that Australians now, they're coming out and saying, she warned us. I've spoken about multiculturalism since 1996. I was the only one who opposed it, and I was ridiculed. And you spoke about my going to jail. Well, I did in 2003 in maximum security. And that was about, our former Prime Minister, Tony Abbott, who wasn't a Prime Minister at the time, did say, we had to stop you. I was a threat to the major political parties. So I had this case brought against me after a 6-week criminal trial. I was found guilty and I did 11 weeks in prison. I was given a 3-year maximum security sentence. I did 11 weeks before I was actually released on my 3rd appeal. So there's a lot of history there and standing up for what I believe in for my country. And, I'm still a threat to the major political parties, and it's quite evident now with us growing in the polls. But I'm getting a lot of support from the public, but I don't take it for granted.
Yeah, you are Australia's Donald Trump, you are Australia's Tommy Robinson, you are Australia's Marine Le Pen, but actually they began these tactics on you of lawfare, of total destruction, far before any of that. It's very disturbing. Now, you talk about these polls. I mean, we see in the United Kingdom at the moment, Pauline, a total smashing of the Uni Party with Nigel Farage's Reform UK and the Green Party on the left and the right, outflanking the Conservatives and Labour, which have destroyed this country. The Uni Party have destroyed us. Of course, we have a first past the post system. You have a system designed to protect the Uni Party. But is there now, after Bondi, a realistic possibility, Pauline, that you could be the Prime Minister of Australia, that you could succeed Anthony Albanese? Can that happen in your system?
Dan, the only way that can happen is in the Senate, we've got the 2 houses like you have, but in the Senate, I cannot become the Prime Minister from the Senate. I must stand for a lower house seat and win that seat. And then I have to get 76 of those seats in the lower houses, which there are 150 seats. I must get the majority of those seats to actually form government. Now, I'm going to be realistic about it. We can actually get the balance of power in the Senate after the next election. I do believe that is, available to us. And by having the balance of power means that legislation must pass the lower house, then come to the upper house to be passed to become law. If we can actually block that legislation, or we can make amendments to it or throw it out altogether, that's as good as being government. And it's about growing the party now. I've only been back to the party. I was first elected in Parliament in 1996. 1998, I lost my seat. I was out of politics for 18 years. I came back in 2016 as a senator, and I've been in there since then. I've grown the party. The last election, we were the party that increased our numbers by doubled our numbers. I've got now 4 senators. We're hoping to actually pick up more Senate seats at the next federal election. I'm trying to be realistic, but it's, I'm not going to get ahead of myself. We've still got another 2 to 2.5 years before the next election. So from the position that I hold now, no, I can't be Prime Minister. I have to, at the next election, stand for a lower house seat, get the ballot, win the number of seats. But like I said, there's a lot of water that needs to go under the bridge before that happens.
No, indeed. And this is the thing, that the systems are designed to stop insurgent candidates. The systems are designed to protect the uni party, and this could be a 2-election cycle. Now, Pauline, I was at CPAC Australia back in October in Brisbane. I had a conversation with you there, and on stage I warned Australia about what was happening here and said, could be too late for you guys. Now, arguably, the Bondi attack makes clear that in some ways it is. However, as you spoke about in that very passionate interview after Bondi, you have followed closely what has gone on here in the United Kingdom. Can you just talk a little bit about how horrified you have been to see up close the Islamist takeover, which, as you say, means that we now have no-go areas in London, means that we have entire councils controlled by Muslims, that we have Sharia law courts operating up and down the country? You have been quite horrified to see the change to the United Kingdom, haven't you?
Most definitely. Actually, that's made my resolve more determined, because I don't want Australia to become like England. I love your country. I think it's a beautiful place. I've been over there about, I can't remember now, 4 or 5, 6 times. I don't know. I took my daughter there first time overseas 2 years ago, just over 2.5 years ago to England. My grandparents came from England, London. He was a carpenter, and my grandmother came from Stonehenge. So I have a lot of, and my other side came from Ireland and Limerick, actually. So I have a lot of connection with England. But to go over there and see what's happening to your country, to hear what the people have to say about it, the English people that are here, they're devastated. Even when I was actually in 1996 elected to Parliament, I remember people used to say to me, "You're the Enoch Powell of England." And that's how they referred to me back then in 1996. What's happened to England, and I see the change over the years, and you speak about Sharia law courts, and I spoke about years ago, there was over 1,000 Sharia law courts throughout the country. Then you also have, places where you can't go even into areas, and that's happening here in Australia, that you dare not go there. It's a real shame. British pride, and I saw a clip there where a fellow was saying, why can't we fly the British flag? You've got all these other flags lined up down the street. Where's our pride in being Britain? Then you have, one councillor, and I've actually put it up on my Facebook page today, one councillor who said, I was born and bred in Britain, and immediately stopped and said, oh God, I'm not allowed to say that, am I? And of course she was investigated by the police. What has happened to your country? I'm devastated for the people, in Britain. And you know what? It's not by chance. The people have just sat back, didn't take an interest in politics. They can tell you who's in the footy match. They follow their football. There's no problem about it. But when it comes to politics, she'll be right. So they've taken no interest. So the people need to sit back and blame themselves for this as well, because you just didn't take an interest and get involved in politics to know what was happening around you. And you've allowed your country to get to the state. And the same thing's happening in Australia. But I am actually out here trying to warn Australians what is happening. And because it's taken me 3 decades, what's happened, Dan, is that I've gained the trust, confidence from the Australian people that I am proud of my country. And that's taken me 3 decades to get that, because you know what? They have no trust or faith in politicians. They can't stand politicians. So it's taken me a long time to gain that trust and faith that they know that I am committed to Australia and the Australian people. And so that's why I think now I'm starting to push through.
Can I ask you about Nigel Farage and Reform UK? I mean, you have known Nigel for a long time, I think have been relatively close. But I'm sure you'll also be aware that there is a debate here in the United Kingdom about whether Farage is actually going to be tough enough on these issues. Elon Musk described him as weak sauce and suggested that there should be a new leader of Reform UK. We obviously have these new growing movements to the right of Reform UK, Rupert Lowe's, Restore Britain, Ben Habib's Advance UK, which has been backed by Tommy Robinson. Do you believe Farage is the answer? And can you understand why he is seemingly pivoting to the centre, or some would even say the left at the moment, in terms of saying things like, you know, demographics don't matter, having a deputy who is a Muslim, having a Muslim candidate to run against Sadiq Khan in London? These are all developments that disturb me, Pauline, but as a pal of Nigel, do you understand it?
Look, that's the first time I've heard that he's actually picked a Muslim as a deputy and that type of thing. I actually had years ago, a Muslim as a candidate for the party to stand for New South Wales. She claimed to be a Muslim, but she never dressed or acted like a Muslim. So, you know, we've got to see the background of these people. You've got to, you know, if you keep chopping and changing all the time, no one will win and it'll stay in the hands of the major political parties. You have to actually really assess Nigel and what he says and what he wants to do. You know, you've got the trolls out there who will speak against him and pull him down in whichever way they possibly can and spread lies, as they try to do with me. I'm constantly fighting this all the time. So it's really up to the public, and I'll say, I can't say, because I'm here, I don't see what goes on in your country all the time, for as Nigel goes. I like Nigel. I like what I've heard from him and listened to his interviews over the years. But it's up to the public. Go and do your research. Go and ask the questions. You have the power in your hands to decide. But you know damn well at the end of the day, you cannot keep putting Labor and the Tories back in there, or
100%.
the Conservative Party.
What about Tommy Robinson, Pauline? Because he was the guy who got 3 million people out on the streets of London for this incredible Unite the Kingdom rally. And I mean, he's been to jail. He has spoken up, a bit like you know, spoken up about the Islamist threat before any mainstream politician was. What do you make of Tommy?
Look, I've never met the man, but I've heard a lot about Tommy, and people say I would relate to him, and we'd be on. Yeah, so I would like to meet him. You know, it's hard for me to ask me that question, what do I think about Tommy, to back. You asked me a really tough question, someone from another country, what do I feel about this person? And I don't like to make my comments unless I know what I'm talking about, if you know what I mean. It can, you know, impact on these people. And I don't think it's fair on the British people for me to make my comments when I really don't know them or their policies at the end of the day. So, you know, hopefully if I come over to Britain again, which I could be this year, that I wouldn't mind meeting Tommy Robinson and having a talk with him. I think that's important for us to do it. You know, like-minded people, although we're from different countries, I think it's very important that we need to actually communicate and start pushing back in areas that we possibly can. But it's up to the people to actually look at Tommy Robinson, look at Nigel Farage, look at the people around them, and you have to make the decision. But I'll say to you at the end of the day again, do not put Labor and the coalition back in. Do not put the Tories or Conservative Party back in. You can't afford to. Your country's absolutely ruined. And you've got to find people that are prepared to make the tough stance, call out the tough decisions that need to be made to pull your country back. And that's exactly what I'm doing.
And you are a brilliant woman. Thank you so much to Pauline Hanson. Of course, because of the time difference, we recorded that interview just before the show. But the great news is there is a part 2 coming up later in the week. And Pauline's anti-woke cartoon, a super progressive movie, is in cinemas across Australia on January the 26th. It will also be available to stream for international viewers, she assures me. Details are at a superprogressivemovie.com. But it's hilarious. Honestly, it's so funny. Take a look at the trailer.
Once upon a time in so-called Australia, a culture war tore the nation apart. And somehow, the lefties won. And I should know, I'm the Prime Minister, Elbow. This is my land. Good morning, fellow white straight males.
Now, we've had so much feedback coming in from you today on this disgusting decision by Slippery Starmer to ban Eva Vlaardingerbroek. Thank you very much for your super chats. Alex Marmon writes, Starmer fears Eva because she tells the truth about him. Anyone that speaks out against him is silenced or banned. That is why he wants to ban X. Cerulean Sword says, if someone fears you, it means they're scared of you. Starmer fears people. It means he is scared. He knows he won't be in power forever. And when he isn't, he will be prosecuted. God, I hope so. Corinne Bell writes, when are we going to get our country back and out of the hands of desperate Starmer and his nodding donkeys? Juliet Johnson writes, Dan, Nigel and Reform UK will only challenge Labour on banning X when Rupert's efforts started getting traction and looking successful. Chinese 65 says, Eva is a strong and intelligent lady. The UK needs more people like her. Please, please come to the UK. Well, she can't. That's the problem. She wants to. David K9 writes, so a woman telling the truth is banned, but known terrorists who have admitted terrible things that they want to do to us are allowed. I know who I would want to be in a room with. Paul Robson says she needs to convert to Islam and the Starmer will provide her with a private plane. Brilliant. That's the comment of the day, Paul. And Luke Edwards says, what an episode, Dan. Brilliant lineup today. And I have to say, what a lineup. What a lineup. Eva Vlaardingerbroek, Pauline Hanson, Godfrey Bloom, and the return of Father Calvin Robinson. That is a lineup today. Thank you so much. Here are your Union Jackass nominees, though. We're about to reveal the worst Briton in the world today. The nominees, Lee Anderson, put forward by Kaz Quinn, for claiming victory over digital ID, even though no Reform UK MPs signed Rupert Lowe's letter to Parliament. Lewis Goodall, nominated by Home House 47 for not wanting ICE deportations in the United Kingdom. And Slippery Starmer for threatening to have X blocked due to Grok, even though it's nothing to do with Grok, as other sites and Photoshops can do exactly the same thing. It's about his hatred of free speech and Elon Musk and blocking people, criticizing his communist dictatorship government. And of course, that is highly relevant to the case of Eva Vlaardingerbroek, who finds herself banned from the United Kingdom. These results, this was actually our biggest ever majority. With 2% of the vote, Lewis Goodall. With 4% of the vote, Lee Anderson. But today's Union Jackass, the worst Briton in the world today with 94% of your vote, that's Slippery Starmer. How dare you ban our Eva Vlaardingerbroek, you absolute bastard. Today's greatest Briton, though, on a similar note, it is Rupert Lowe, nominated by Scottfly23 for pressing to get digital ID scrapped. We need a party now, Rupert. Well, as I was saying yesterday, don't rule out that possibility. Do not rule out that possibility. I saw David Bull from Reform UK saying, oh, they can never do it. They've never got the money. Don't rule it out. Stranger things have happened. Things are moving fast, folks. Okay, there's big royal news today too, and as you know, we cover it in our royal uncancelled after show over on Substack. P. Diner is standing by. Huge revelation from Prince Harry. You can join us over at www.outspoken.live. A couple of things. We are desperately trying to get to 700,000 subscribers. I so appreciate your support. But if you are watching this show and you have not clicked that subscribe button, please do so. Completely free, by the way. And if you turn on the notification bell, you'll also be alerted to our new episodes. Outspoken is also now available as a podcast, so you can find us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts, actually. And that is also available totally free to you. Back live tomorrow, 5 p.m. UK time, midday Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. Carl Benjamin of the Lotus Eaters joining us for the first time tomorrow. Looking forward to that. So hit subscribe, turn on the notification bell if you do want to be alerted to that episode. Most importantly, I promise to keep fighting for you.